In today's video I'll show you how to make a user pic like this in Photoshop and how to animate it for Discord using neural networks. First we need to create a new project. Click create new. I already have a 1K by 1K pixel template ready. Just repeat my settings and that's it. Well created. Now go to your materials folder. Select and drag and drop. The background is going to be at the bottom, so I'm moving it down. I'm going to select the character image and stretch it out. I'm going to immediately separate the character from the background. Press W and select that. And just click on the character and that's it. It's not hard. Select and mask, and you can customize the selection a little bit. For example, you can move the slider and see what the picture looks like. Let's say it looks like this. To fix this, you can go to the mask, select a brush, hotkey B, and just erase it with the black brush. Then I convert the layer to a smart object. I select the background, stretch it out about like this. There is text on the back. To remove it, I press M to select the area, press Shift again to select the area, and select here. Now it's important that the layer is rasterized because we can't do it any other way. And click here, Content Aware Fill, and merging these two layers into one, and we're done. Now as you can see, the background is not very high quality, so I'm going to disable the character layer. It's okay that the background isn't full size and that there's text here because the character covers everything up and it won't be visible. I'm just saving it to the appropriate folder and I'm going to go to Stable Diffusion. I upload the background here. This is a common customization. I think I've borrowed it from Surco. Here's his channel. If you're interested, you can check it out there. And the photo model, and this is the usual hair too, and click generate. This is what we end up with. I copied the picture, go into Photoshop, paste it in. It hasn't changed much, but all the noise has been removed and the picture looks really good. I turned the character on and we're going to continue working with that. Also, don't forget to convert the background to a smart object. We're going to filter camera raw. You can reduce the exposure a little bit. You can add contrast, you can remove highlights, you can add a little bit of saturation, texture. Let's just say it's all done by A. We got something like this. I added more contrast, more sharpness, and that's what we ended up with. Same thing with the character, but first of all let's remove this inscription because this is where the nickname should be. I will be doing this using Photoshop neural network, and I advise you to buy a license and use this neural network. It's very convenient. You don't have to go anywhere. Everything is in Photoshop, but I realized that you don't have this neural network and you will do it yourself. In that case, I duplicate the character, hide the bottom one, press the S button, with the Alt key held down, select the area, and then I do this, like here, and then I'll do it all over the surface. But you can also select an area. I select through the lasso, press the L key, that's where it is, and just select the area. It can also be deleted. If there is something can be adjusted, I hold Shift and select. Right click and also select fill. In this case it worked pretty well. I can even leave it in. This is where you can also remove it. I also select the area and fill. There are some artifacts here. They also need to be removed using clone stamp. I hold down the Ctrl key and select the necessary layers and merge them into one layer like this. Then I rasterize that layer, select the clone stamp tool and smudge out the excess and convert it back to a smart object again. That's what we ended up with. As for color correction, we also go into camera raw and try to do something interesting here. Let's say it's like this. You can add saturation, you can add texture, you can sharpen it, you can smooth it out a little bit, you can remove noise, you can play with colors, with tones, and that's what we end up with. And yes, an important thing, when I make a user pic I always create an ellipse, this thing. Stretch it out, just enter the size of the project here, Ctrl A, then V, and I'll click on it. Then press Ctrl+D to deselect it. With Ctrl held down I click on the ellipse, create an empty layer, press Ctrl+I to invert the selection and draw on the empty layer. Now you can remove the ellipse and reduce the opacity of the frame. Now I want to add some glow behind the character. I create an empty layer, do it below the character layer, select the desired color with an eyedropper. Remind you that is done with the Alt key held down. The brush hardness should also be minimal and I make such a glow. You can always always erase the excess. You can create another layer right here and you can make a little vignette on the background. I do it with a regular black color. I create another layer above the character and darken the bottom of it a little bit. Now let's get it into the composition a little bit better. I select the character and in the adjustment layers I choose selective color and I attach the adjustment layer to the character with the Alt key pressed. Here you can say add a red color for example. It's all done by AI like almost everything in Photoshop. Basically I look at how it would look better and adjust. Here's what I end up with. I create a new layer, I click on the character with the Ctrl held down and use the same color we used to create the light behind the character and make highlights on the character. Everything extra can be erased if you overdo it. But the color is very pink. Maybe I'll take a redder color. Select and do the same thing we just did. Here I would make it bigger and here I would make it smaller. You can also darken the character a little bit more, for example here. I create a gradient map, an empty layer, move it under the gradient map, fix it, create a solid black fill here, change the blending mode to screen. Here I choose a gradient map like this. Again I select the character and on this layer I paint with white color. I use a special brush for contour lighting. You can make such a brush by watching my video on how to paint in light. And in the same way I make a small stroke. In general it's best to do this on a graphics tablet. Yeah, I don't really need one, but I use it sometimes. You can erase what you think is too much. Here's what we've got in the end. Let's zoom in on the character like this, because I made him too small. I forgot about the most important thing, the nickname on the mask. Here's the name on the font. Zoom in, click here, then here, and do roughly the following. Press Ctrl+T, select warp. But before we do that, we need to convert the text into a smart object. And I'm just overlaying the text, like as if it were on a mask. Now I'm merging the layer into one. Duplicate it, move the bottom one over here and attach it to the text. Double click on the layer and with these settings make it look like the text is on the mask. To split the point, press Alt. That's what it looks like. Now I'm just going to combine all of this into one layer. Create levels, pin the layer with the Alt key pressed and darken it a little bit. I'll also add a little bit more glow to this side. I'm going to create another gradient map and I'm going to edit it a little bit, like this. And I'm going to apply the next effect. Invert the mask and manifest it in some places. And this is what we end up with. I merge all the layers into one. That's a keyboard shortcut of Alt plus Control plus Shift and plus E and convert to a smart object. I go into Camera Raw and do some color correction. I also just spin different sliders and see how it looks. The main thing is not to change the original colors, but if you don't have that task, you can basically change it. You can add clarity, remove a bit of noise and tweak it a bit here. I still decided to make the picture a little bit of contrast, as it looks better to me that way. Now I save the picture, go to Stable Diffusion, select the picture and generate. This is the picture we got. I apply the mask with the Alt press, it will be inverted immediately and I just show some places. You can also change the background, for example, and the mask. If the letters do not change much, why not? And this is what it looks like in the end. It's already better, but it's not finally yet. I merged the layers again, convert it to a smart object, go to camera raw and do color correction again. You can, for example, make it brighter, so that all sorts of highlights appear. Add contrast. The color, as you can see, has already turned some red, so I'm going to change it. You could even do it like this. Create a hue saturation and color the background like this. I'm saving it again and put it in stable diffusion, and I'm going to do the same thing a few minutes. I go into camera raw again, adjust everything again, save it again. This can be done endlessly. I'm in stable, color correction, again stable. You can increase sampling steps and denoising strength. You can increase and see what happens. There is already some more detail in the hair. Anyway, I did a little more work here and got this result. Work in Photoshop is ready. Now it remains to animate our picture. The next step in creating our user pic will be animation. For this I will use a website with neural network. The name of the website is Runway. Just register by email and you will find yourself on this screen. Next, try Gen 2. Click here, select our image. Once the user pic loads, all we need to do is change this value. You can put maybe 10 or even 20, but the image is going to change a lot, so I'm going to put 2. Maybe I'll put 1. Well, see after the generation. Maybe I'll put 1. I press generate and wait. The generation happens pretty fast, literally in 2 minutes. We got this something very strange, so I put a 1 here and generation, and it looks much better than the first one. But as you can see, there is a watermark in the lower right corner and it needs to be removed. I'm not sure if I can show on YouTube how to remove the watermark. Just go to the first website you come across that has a neural network that removes watermarks from videos. Then use the Convertio website to change the format from MP4 to GIF, and there's your user pic ready. You can use GIF for Discord or any other project where possible, and you can use the regular picture on YouTube or anywhere else.